On April 8, 2023, in a quiet Virginia suburb, a rookie police officer named Ashley Ginden took her last breath while responding to a call that should have been routine. She was just 28 years old, eager to serve and protect, with a passion for making her community safer. But what happened that day was anything but ordinary. It unraveled years of hidden pain, trauma, and violence. Ashley's story is one of courage and sacrifice, but it's also intertwined with the dark reality of domestic violence, a silent epidemic that often hides in plain sight. Behind closed doors, Ronald Hamilton, a decorated Army staff sergeant, struggled with demons he couldn't conquer. His once loving relationship with his wife, Crystal, had deteriorated into a toxic cycle of control and abuse. That morning, when Crystal tried to leave, Ronald snapped, setting off a chain of events that would change lives forever. What if the person you loved most became your greatest fear? And what if the one sworn to protect them paid the ultimate price? Today, we delve into the tragic yet inspiring story of Ashley Ginden, a hero who gave everything to protect others, even at the cost of her own life. If you're new here, welcome to Vic's True Crime Stories. If you enjoy gripping, emotional true crime, Ashley Ginden was more than just a rookie cop. She was a beacon of hope for her community. Born on July 15, 1993, Ashley grew up in a tight-knit town where everyone knew each other. Her parents, Linda and Michael, were pillars of the community. Linda as a dedicated nurse and Michael as a hard-working mechanic. From an early age, Ashley absorbed their values of compassion and resilience. She learned to care for others by watching her mother tend to patients late into the night and her father teach neighbors how to fix their cars without hesitation. As a child, Ashley spent countless hours helping her mother at the hospital, learning about the strength it takes to heal not only physical wounds but emotional ones too. It was during these formative years that Ashley began to understand the impact of violence on families. She saw firsthand the fear in the eyes of victims who came through the emergency room doors, often too scared to speak up or seek help. These experiences planted the seed of her future calling, to become someone who could make a difference in people's lives. After high school, Ashley initially pursued nursing, inspired by her mother's career. But during an internship at the local hospital, she realized her true passion lay elsewhere. Witnessing domestic violence cases up close, she felt powerless as a medical professional to intervene before tragedy struck. That realization shifted her path toward law enforcement. For Ashley, becoming a police officer wasn't just about wearing a badge, it was about giving a voice to those who had none, protecting the vulnerable, and creating a safer world for everyone. Her journey through the police academy wasn't easy. At 28, Ashley was older than most recruits, but her determination set her apart. She poured herself into training, balancing long hours with part-time jobs to support her aging parents. Her instructors noticed her unwavering commitment and natural leadership skills, often assigning her to mentor newer recruits. On October 10, 2022, Ashley was officially sworn in as a police officer, surrounded by family and friends who celebrated her achievement. That night, holding her shiny new badge, she told her younger sister, Sarah, "This isn't just about me. It's about all the people who need someone to stand up for them." Meanwhile, across town, another story unfolded, one of a decorated soldier struggling to find peace after returning from war. Ronald Hamilton, born on March 22, 1979, joined the U.S. Army straight out of high school. Over the years, he earned accolades for his bravery and leadership, serving multiple tours overseas. To his wife, Crystal, and their 11-year-old child, Ronald was once a loving husband and devoted father. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form during his third deployment to Afghanistan in 2016. While stationed there, Ronald witnessed horrors that would haunt him for years to come. He lost close friends in combat and barely escaped death himself. When he returned home in 2018, the world felt alien to him. Simple tasks like grocery shopping or attending parent-teacher conferences became overwhelming. Friends noticed his mood swings, how he'd go from jovial one moment to explosive anger the next, but they dismissed it as stress from his military career. Behind closed doors, however, the situation worsened. PTSD wasn't something Ronald openly acknowledged or sought help for. Instead, it manifested in sleepless nights, hypervigilance, and uncontrollable rage. His once loving demeanor gave way to controlling behavior. He isolated Crystal from friends and family, forbidding her from working outside the home. Though she feared for her safety, Crystal stayed hopeful, believing her husband would eventually return to the man she fell in love with. By early 2023, the strain on their marriage reached a breaking point. Arguments escalated, leaving both emotionally drained and physically exhausted. Neighbors occasionally heard shouting matches but assumed they were normal marital disagreements. Inside the house, though, the tension was suffocating. Ronald's untreated trauma fueled his aggression, while Crystal's desperation grew stronger with each passing day. Despite her fears, she clung to the hope that things could improve, if only Ronald would let her help him. PTSD isn't always visible, but its effects can be devastating. For Ronald Hamilton, the horrors of combat turned into a personal battle he couldn't win alone. The same strength that made him a hero on the battlefield now trapped him in a cycle of pain and fury. As the months went by, the line between reality and paranoia blurred, setting the stage for a confrontation that no one could have predicted. Little did anyone know, this quiet Virginia suburb was about to become the epicenter of a tragedy that would ripple through the lives of everyone involved. By early 2023, the cracks in Ronald and Crystal Hamilton's marriage had widened beyond repair. Crystal had reached her breaking point. The once loving relationship was now a toxic cycle of fear, control, and escalating violence. She knew she couldn't stay any longer, not just for her own safety but for the sake of their 11-year-old child. Quietly, under the cover of darkness, Crystal began making plans to leave. There are heated arguments late at night, whispered phone calls to friends, and sleepless nights spent staring at the ceiling. Crystal's resolve grows stronger with each passing day, but so does Ronald's suspicion. He notices the subtle changes, her distant demeanor, the way she avoids eye contact, the small bags hidden in the closet, and his paranoia spirals out of control. One evening, as the house falls silent after another argument, Crystal sneaks into her room and begins packing. Her movements are deliberate yet cautious, careful not to wake Ronald or disturb their sleeping child. She whispers into her phone, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and determination. "I don't know how much longer I can do this. He's getting worse. Please, help me get out safely. I need to protect my child." Her friend on the other end reassures her, offering guidance and support. They devise a plan. Crystal will leave first thing in the morning while Ronald is still asleep. She'll take the child to a safe house where they can regroup and figure out their next steps. It's risky, but it's the only option left. But fate has other plans. Somewhere along the line, Ronald discovers her intentions. Whether it was a misplaced bag or an overheard conversation, the exact moment remains unclear. What is clear, however, is that when he finds out, his reaction is explosive. The calm facade he maintained in public shatters completely, revealing the depth of his anger and instability. The morning of April 8th arrives like any other, except for the heavy weight hanging over the Hamilton household. Crystal knows today is the day. She wakes up early, gently rousing her child and gathering what little they can carry. As they tiptoe toward the door, Ronald emerges from the bedroom, his eyes bloodshot and his expression cold. Without a word, he grabs Crystal by the arm, pulling her back inside. The child freezes in terror, unsure of what to do. Inside the house, the atmosphere turns electric. Words fly back and forth, accusations mingling with pleas for mercy. Ronald's grip tightens around Crystal's wrist as he demands answers. When she refuses to back down, his rage boils over. In a blur of motion, the sound of a gunshot echoes through the walls. Crystal collapses to the floor, her life slipping away before her child's horrified eyes. Meanwhile, across town, Ashley Ginden starts her shift with optimism and purpose. It's her first full day on the job, and she's eager to prove herself. Alongside veteran officers Jesse Hempen and David McAuliffe, she responds to a routine call, a domestic disturbance reported at a residential address. The dispatch details are sparse, mentioning only that a woman called 911 claiming there was trouble at home. As the trio approaches the house, the scene seems unremarkable at first glance. The neighborhood is quiet, the air crisp with the promise of spring. But beneath the surface, danger lurks. Inside the house, Ronald Hamilton stands armed, his mind consumed by fury and paranoia. He waits in silence, gripping the weapon tightly as he listens for the sound of approaching sirens. At exactly 9:15 a.m., Ashley, Jesse, and David pull up outside the residence. Their training kicks in as they prepare to approach the front door. Ashley takes point, her badge gleaming proudly against her uniform. She feels a surge of confidence mixed with nerves. It's her debut performance, and she wants to make it count. Little does she know, this will be her final act. The contrast is stark, one officer ready to serve and protect, the other lost in a labyrinth of pain and rage. Each step closer to the house increases the tension, building an almost unbearable suspense. Ashley knocks firmly on the door, announcing their presence in a clear, steady voice. "Police. Open up." Inside, Ronald hesitates for a brief moment. In a matter of seconds, everything changed. Ronald Hamilton opened fire, his weapon cutting through the morning air with deafening precision. The first shot rang out just as Ashley Ginden stepped forward, her hand raised to knock on the door. Without hesitation, she reacted instinctively, her body shielding officers Jesse Hempen and David McAuliffe from the barrage of bullets that followed. The impact threw her backward, her badge glinting one last time in the sunlight before she collapsed onto the porch. Jesse and David were caught off guard but quickly returned fire, their training kicking in despite the chaos. Shots echoed across the quiet neighborhood, shattering windows and sending neighbors scrambling for cover. Both officers were struck, David in the leg, Jesse in the shoulder, but they managed to wound Ronald, forcing him to retreat inside. In those critical moments, their focus shifted entirely to Ashley, who lay motionless at their feet. Jesse drops to his knees beside Ashley, pressing his hands against the wound in a futile attempt to stop the bleeding. David radios for backup, his voice cracking under the weight of what has just unfolded. Time seems to stand still as they plead with her to hold on, to stay with them. But Ashley's sacrifice is already complete. Her final act of bravery ensured her colleagues had a chance to survive. Inside the house, the young child cowers in the closet, ears ringing from the sound of gunshots. Through the crack between the door and the frame, they see their mother lying motionless on the floor, blood pooling around her lifeless form. Tears stream down the child's face as they press themselves further into the shadows, praying silently for help. For this innocent bystander, the trauma will linger long after the immediate danger has passed. They witnessed something no child ever should, a parent taken too soon, their world shattered in an instant. As the gunfire subsides, sirens wail in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. First responders arrive within minutes, flooding the scene with flashing lights and urgent commands. Paramedics rush to Ashley's side, working tirelessly to revive her, but it's too late. Her heart has stopped, her spirit already ascending to join the ranks of fallen heroes who gave their lives in service to others. Nearby, Jesse and David are loaded into ambulances, their injuries severe but not fatal. The young child is discovered hiding in the closet, trembling but unharmed, a small miracle amidst the carnage. Outside, neighbors gather hesitantly at the edges of the street, drawn by the commotion. Some clutch phones, filming the scene as news helicopters begin circling overhead. Within hours, the incident becomes national news. Reporters descend on the small Virginia town, transforming a private tragedy into a public spectacle. Cameras capture every detail, the yellow police tape fluttering in the breeze, the somber expressions of law enforcement officials, the grief-stricken faces of those who knew Ashley personally. The media frenzy amplifies the pain felt by Ashley's family and friends. Interviews with colleagues paint a vivid picture of her dedication and compassion, while experts weigh in on the broader issues at play: domestic violence, mental health support for veterans, and the dangers faced daily by law enforcement officers. Meanwhile, the community grapples with its own role in the unfolding drama. How could such a tragedy happen right under their noses? What signs did they miss? Could anyone have done more to prevent this? As night falls, the neighborhood remains bathed in the glow of television lights and the hum of generators powering live broadcasts. Inside the Hamilton home, forensic investigators comb through the wreckage, piecing together the final moments of Crystal's life and the events that led to Ashley's untimely death. The young child is placed in temporary custody with extended family, beginning the long journey toward healing. For Ashley's loved ones, the reality of her loss sinks in slowly. Her parents sit together in stunned silence, unable to process the enormity of what has happened. Her younger sister, Sarah, clutches a photograph of Ashley in uniform, vowing to honor her memory by continuing the fight against domestic violence. Friends recall her laughter, her kindness, her unwavering commitment to making the world a better place. Even in death, Ashley inspires action. But for now, the focus remains on the aftermath: the investigation, the trial, the healing. As the community comes together to mourn and reflect, one truth stands clear: Ashley Ginden was more than just a rookie officer. She was a hero whose courage transcended the ordinary, leaving an indelible mark on all whose lives she touched. And though her story ends tragically, her legacy lives on, a testament to the power of selflessness and the enduring strength of the human spirit. This is Vic's True Crime Stories, where we uncover the truth behind gripping tales like these. If you found this story moving or thought-provoking, consider sharing it with friends who might appreciate it. Together, let's keep the conversation going. For Ashley's family, the loss was unbearable. The days following her death felt like an endless haze of grief and disbelief. Yet, even in their sorrow, they found solace in the outpouring of love and support from the community. Hundreds gathered for her funeral procession, lining the streets to pay their respects. Flags flew at half-mast, and flowers blanketed the church where her service took place. Each face in the crowd bore a look of reverence, united in mourning the life of a young woman whose potential had been cruelly cut short. At the memorial, Sarah, Ashley's younger sister, stood before the congregation, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill over. She spoke with pride about her sister's unwavering determination and compassion. "Ash never backed down from a challenge," Sarah said, her words resonating through the room. "Even when things got tough, she stood tall. That's why we're starting the Ashley Ginden Foundation, to continue her legacy." The foundation aimed to provide scholarships for aspiring first responders and offer resources to victims of domestic violence, ensuring that Ashley's dedication to protecting others would live on beyond her years. Meanwhile, across town, another chapter unfolded, one of justice and accountability. Ronald Hamilton was formally charged with 2 counts of capital murder for the deaths of Ashley Ginden and Crystal Hamilton, as well as multiple counts of attempted murder for wounding officers Jesse Hempin and David McAuliffe. His trial began on November 6, 2023, drawing national attention and sparking heated debates about the nature of justice itself. The courtroom was packed with spectators, journalists, and concerned citizens, all eager to witness the proceedings. Prosecutors presented a compelling case, arguing that PTSD does not excuse premeditated violence. They painted a picture of Ronald as a man consumed by rage and paranoia, his actions deliberate and calculated. Evidence showed that he had planned the attack meticulously, arming himself beforehand and waiting patiently for the officers to arrive. To them, this was not just a tragedy, it was a crime that demanded the harshest punishment possible. Defense attorneys, however, painted a different portrait of Ronald. They highlighted his decorated military career, emphasizing the toll that repeated deployments had taken on his mental health. PTSD, they argued, is a silent but deadly condition that often goes untreated due to societal stigma and inadequate support systems. Without proper care, veterans like Ronald are left to navigate their struggles alone, sometimes with catastrophic consequences. The defense urged the jury to consider these systemic failures, asking whether mercy might be more fitting than retribution. As the trial progressed, the community grappled with its own questions. How could such a tragedy happen right under their noses? Neighbors who had once dismissed the occasional argument as normal marital issues now questioned what signs they might have missed. Friends who had encouraged Ronald to seek help but stopped short of intervening reflected on whether they could have done more. Even law enforcement officials examined their protocols, wondering if there were ways to better prepare officers for high-risk situations or intervene earlier in cases of suspected domestic violence. These reflections sparked broader discussions about consent, trust, and societal responsibility. Domestic violence, though hidden behind closed doors, affects countless lives every day. It thrives in silence, perpetuated by fear and shame. And while individual actions play a role, so too do systemic factors, like access to mental health resources, education about healthy relationships, and policies designed to protect victims. Ashley's death became a rallying cry for change, inspiring local organizations to host workshops, fundraise for shelters, and advocate for stricter gun control measures. For those directly impacted by the tragedy, healing was a slow and painful process. Jesse Hempin and David McAuliffe underwent extensive rehabilitation, both physically and emotionally. Their injuries served as constant reminders of that fateful day, but they channeled their pain into action. Jesse became an outspoken advocate for officer safety training, pushing for reforms that emphasized de-escalation techniques and situational awareness. David, meanwhile, dedicated himself to mentoring new recruits, teaching them the importance of teamwork and communication in high-pressure scenarios. The young child who survived the ordeal also faced a long road ahead. Though unharmed physically, the trauma lingered deeply. Therapy sessions helped them process the events, but the scars ran far deeper than words could describe. Extended family rallied around them, providing stability and love during a time of unimaginable loss. In their eyes, the child became a symbol of resilience, a testament to the human spirit's ability to endure even the darkest moments. As the trial drew to a close, the community waited anxiously for the verdict. Regardless of the outcome, one truth remained clear: Ashley Ginden's legacy transcended the confines of her brief life. Through her sacrifice, she inspired countless individuals to fight for a safer, kinder world, one free from the shadows of violence and despair. Her story served as both a tribute and a warning, a reminder of the courage it takes to stand up for others and the urgent need to address the root causes of such tragedies. And so, as the pages of this chapter turned, the people of Virginia vowed to honor Ashley's memory by continuing her mission. Together, they worked toward a future where no one would have to face such horrors alone. The memory of Ashley Ginden lives on not just in the hearts of those who knew her, but in the actions of a community determined to honor her legacy. Across Virginia, events like charity runs and workshops have become a testament to her enduring impact. Ashley's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a wake-up call. It exposed gaps in systems meant to protect both victims of domestic violence and the officers responding to their calls for help. Law enforcement agencies across the country began re-evaluating their training protocols, recognizing the unique challenges posed by domestic disturbance calls. Officers now undergo specialized de-escalation training, learning how to approach volatile situations with greater caution and empathy. This shift reflects a growing understanding that these incidents often involve deeply personal dynamics that require nuanced handling. At the same time, communities rallied to improve support systems for victims of domestic abuse. Shelters expanded capacity, hotlines increased staffing, and outreach programs worked tirelessly to educate people about the signs of abuse and available resources. Local organizations partnered with schools and workplaces to host workshops, teaching individuals how to identify red flags and intervene safely when necessary. Through these efforts, The conversation around domestic violence moved from whispers behind closed doors to open discussions in public forums. But perhaps one of the most profound revelations emerging from this case was the urgent need to address PTSD among veterans. Ronald Hamilton's story served as a stark reminder of the invisible wounds carried home by so many service members. Advocates called for better mental health support within the military and veteran communities, emphasizing early intervention and ongoing care. Programs were developed to connect struggling veterans with peer counselors who understood their experiences firsthand. Community awareness campaigns highlighted the importance of destigmatizing mental health struggles, encouraging those in need to seek help without fear of judgment. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about consent, trust, and societal stigma. It reminds us that behind every statistic is a human story, one filled with love, loss, and resilience. Crystal Hamilton's tragic death and Ashley Ginden's heroic sacrifice underscore the complexities of domestic violence, its far-reaching consequences, and the systemic issues that allow it to persist. They challenge us to rethink our assumptions, question our biases, and take meaningful action. For instance, we must ask ourselves, why do victims often remain silent? What barriers prevent them from seeking help? And how can society create safer spaces for survivors to rebuild their lives? These questions demand answers rooted in compassion and accountability. By fostering environments where trust can flourish, we empower individuals to break free from cycles of abuse and reclaim their dignity. Moreover, this story highlights the critical role played by law enforcement in addressing domestic violence. While officers like Ashley risk their lives daily to protect others, they too face risks that extend beyond physical harm. Better training, clearer communication channels, and enhanced safety measures are essential components of ensuring their well-being. At the same time, partnerships between law enforcement and social services can bridge gaps, creating comprehensive responses to crises that address both immediate needs and long-term solutions. If you found this story moving or thought-provoking, consider sharing it with friends who might appreciate it. Together, let's spread awareness and inspire change. Whether through supporting organizations like the Ashley Ginden Foundation, advocating for policy reforms, or simply engaging in conversations about these pressing issues, each of us has the power to make a difference. Let Ashley's legacy serve as a call to action, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable loss, hope endures and progress is possible. As we reflect on this harrowing tale, may we carry forward the lessons it teaches. May we strive to build a world where no family fears returning home, where no officer faces danger without adequate preparation, and where every individual feels safe, valued, and supported. In honoring Ashley Ginden's memory, we commit ourselves to this mission, not just today, but always. As the sun sets over the cherry blossom tree planted in Ashley's honor, its delicate petals sway gently in the breeze, a poignant reminder of her yet impactful life. Ashley Ginden gave her life protecting others, embodying the true meaning of courage and selflessness. Through her sacrifice, she inspired countless individuals to fight for a safer, kinder world, a world where no one has to face violence alone. Let's honor her memory by continuing the conversation, by advocating for change, and by ensuring that her legacy lives on in every action we take. Thanks for watching this episode of Vic's True Crime Stories. If you were moved by Ashley's story, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales of justice, tragedy, and redemption. And don't forget to click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest uploads.